Between 2017 and 2019, the Los Angeles Dodgers were the most talented team in baseball. They won the NL West every year and years prior. They broke regular season records, were claimed to be the best team ever. But once October came around, it was a house of horrors. In 2017, it was a World Series Game 7 heartbreak at home against the Astros. In 2018, it was another World Series heartbreak at home against the Red Sox. In 2019, it was a Division Series heartbreak at home against the Nationals. The narrative was set. The Dodgers were regular season merchants. They continued to choke in October. They could never win the big one. Then, in November of 2019, a month after the Nationals had beaten the Astros for the World Series trophy, the world found out that the Astros had cheated the Los Angeles Dodgers out of the World Series in 2017. The Astros were using real-time technology to cheat. Fans in Los Angeles were livid. The elusive World Series trophy that had evaded them for 30-plus years was stolen. But Andrew Friedman did not want a makeup trophy. He wanted a dynasty. In February of 2020, everything changed. The Red Sox wanted to shed salary and the Dodgers needed a game changer in their clubhouse. The Red Sox traded away Mookie Betts and David Price for Alex Verdugo, Jeter Downs, and Connor Wong. This trade wasn't just highway robbery. It was the spark that ignited everything. And in March, the world stopped. COVID-19 had shortened the season to 60 games, and the Dodgers regressed heavily. They won 106 games in 2019, but only managed to win 43 in 2020. Obviously, that's a 60-game pace of 116 wins, which was terrifying. Mookie Betts was runner-up for regular season MVP. They marched into the neutral side of Globe Life Stadium. Mookie Betts played like a god. Corey Seager was locked in, and for the first time in 32 years, the Dodgers were World Series champions. The monkey was off their back. Flushed with success, the Dodgers went hunting in 2021. They signed the best free agent pitcher on the market in Trevor Bauer, but he was suspended for his off-the-field actions. They traded away Keibert Ruiz, Josiah Gray, Gerardo Carrillo, and Donovan Casey for Max Scherzer and Trey Turner. In their Dodgers tenure, Scherzer and Turner combined for 10.4 WAR, while the assets that were traded away are still playing for the Nats, have only combined for 7.7 WAR 5 years later. The ability to constantly win trades like this is a key part of laying their foundation for the dynasty. Unfortunately, in 2021, they won 106 games but fell short to the eventual World Series champion Braves. Max Scherzer experienced dead arm in the playoffs, and Walker Buehler stepped up on short rest to pitch that final game, but it was not enough. In 2022, they signed World Series champion Freddie Freeman, while keeping the team mostly the same. They improved in the regular season by winning 111 games, the most in franchise history. But history repeated itself. They lost to the 89-win Padres. The year after that, there was no big splash free agent signing, but the Dodgers still managed to win 100 games, third most in the MLB. This year, they lost to an 84-win red-hot Diamondback team. The playoff problem resurfaced in the 162-game season. It seemed like the players were burnout. They spent 6 months sprinting only to trip when it mattered most. The critics were back. They spend all this money, win all these games, but can't handle the pressure of a short series. They were absolutely slandering Kersh. Look at these memes. Are we serious? While most people were focusing on the Dodgers payroll, they missed the draft room. Between 2015 and 2022, the Dodgers scouting department was the most efficient factory for major league caliber players in the world. In 2015, they drafted Walker Buehler, who played an important role for the Dodgers 9 years later, but we'll get to that. They drafted Matt Beattie, who they traded away for River Ryan, who is currently set to be one of the starters this year. In 2016, they drafted Will Smith, who is currently one of the best offensive catchers in the league and plays an important role for the Dodgers in October. They also drafted Gavin Lux, who contributed in October as well in 2024, and was eventually traded for Mike Sirota and a draft pick that turned out to be Charles Davallon. Sirota is currently the Dodgers' number 4 prospect according to MLB.com, and Davallon is the 9th best prospect in the system. They also drafted Dustin May, who was great before his injuries and was traded for James Tibbs III and Zach Earhart, the Dodgers' 10th and 17th best prospects. And this year, they also drafted Tony Gonsolin, who had an all-star year in 2022. They drafted Mitch White and Zach McKinstry as well, and Zach McKinstry is currently providing some good production for the Tigers. In 2017, they didn't really have as good of a draft as 2016, but they did manage to draft Connor Wong, who was instrumental to the Mookie Betts trade. In 2018, they drafted Michael Grove and James Outman. Both provided assistance at the major league level, as well as Hunter Verdusha, who was traded for Paul Gervais, and Adam Serwanowski, who is currently our number 11 prospect. In 2019, they drafted Michael Bush, who was traded to the Cubs for Zaire Hope and Jackson Ferris, the Dodgers' number 2 and number 7 prospect. They also drafted Ryan Pepio this year, who was traded for Tyler Glasnow. In 2020, they drafted Bobby Miller, who looked to be the ace of the future, until the D-backs broke him in 2023. Now, I don't know if that's true, but it feels like after that NLDS, he was never the same. They also drafted Landon Knack and Gavin Stone, who carried them in the 2024 season in 8 valuable innings. In 2021, they drafted Ben Kasparius, Emmett Sheehan, and Justin Robleski, 3 young guys who helped the 2024 and 2025 Dodgers with their success and are currently helping now in 2026. And wrapping things up with 2022, they drafted Dalton Rushing, who is currently the backup catcher, Alex Freeland, who is currently playing second base on this stacked roster. This is a lot of talent that the Dodgers can consistently find in the drafts, even though they are usually drafting late and missing out on first-round picks due to luxury tax punishments. When you draft as well as the Dodgers do, you can consistently trade multiple players with major league talent for a superstar. They've done a great job at keeping the stars like Will Smith and Andy Pages and trading away those who don't pan out like Josiah Gray and Keibert Ruiz. It was December of 2023 when the most insane offseason in Major League history happened. The Dodgers signed Shohei Ohtani to a 10-year, $700 million deal, which caused some backlash due to Ohtani deferring $680 million of this contract to be paid later. They followed that up by signing Yoshinobu Yamamoto to a 12-year, $325 million deal, which many were shocked with how much money the Dodgers were paying for a guy who had never thrown a pitch in the MLB. Big props to Josh Reddick for pointing that out. Let's see how it works out for them. In this offseason, they also traded for Tyler Glasnow, like I mentioned earlier, but they also signed him to a 5-year, $136 million extension. They signed Teoscar Hernandez on a 1-year prove-it deal for $23.5 million. People called it unfair, but to the Dodgers, they were playing by the same rules as everyone else. They managed to get players to agree to deferring their contracts and lowering the luxury tax total, and due to this, they were able to afford 3 MVPs in the lineup. After this winter and during the season, they also traded for Jack Flaherty, Anthony Banda, Michael Kopech, and Tommy Edman. But this year was different. They didn't win 105-plus games. They dealt with a ton of injuries. The pitching staff was a revolving door. They had 40 different pitchers pitch innings throughout the season. But near the end of the season, something clicked. They weren't just teammates. They were a unit that banded together to get through the lowest lows in the season. And that feeling of closeness carried them through a gritty postseason. They beat the Padres. They beat the Mets. And finally, they took down the Yankees in the Fall Classic. They were finally over the Mickey Mouse accusations and managed to win a World Series in a full 162-game season. Coming into 2025, the target was on their back, and the Dodgers continued to spend. They signed Blake Snell, Tanner Scott, Michael Conforto, Hae-Sung Kim, Kirby Yates, and Roki Sasaki. At this point, they were just flexing their wallets, and for good reason. They led the MLB in payroll in 2024 and 2025. Yes, they are spending a lot of money, but they are also doing it wisely. They didn't chase any regular season records. It seems like they had learned from their burnouts in 2022 and 2023 and paced themselves. Last year, they finished the year 93 and 69. Respectable, but nothing historical. Until it was October. Yoshinobu Yamamoto proved he was worth every penny, carrying the team in the World Series and winning World Series MVP. They became the first team since the 2000 Yankees to go back-to-back. Is it the money? Yes, the money and the TV deal play a big role in their success, but it's not the sole reason. The Mets spend, the Yankees spend, the Padres spend. The Dodgers managed to combine elite drafting, trades, international free agent signings, dumpster diving for players like Max Muncy and Justin Turner, and their big wallet, better than any other team in the league. A Sports Illustrated article wrote that the Dodgers are now a destination team that free agents want their agents calling the Dodgers to see if they're interested in signing them instead of the Dodgers calling for them. The 2020s belong to the Los Angeles Dodgers, not because they bought it, but because they built it better than anyone else.